Let's talk about
What about?
how about how to talk about it? How we decide how often to have having after kids? How to talk about how well do you really know your spouse?
That's right. Today we are pulling back the covers and we are going to dive deep into what keeps that spark alive.
Let's be honest. Most couples are not talking about sex enough.
Yeah, but what if those conversations could completely change the game? Today we're sharing how to have those talks with your spouse and how to make your marriage stronger. So the very first thing for your sex conversations with your spouse is how to spice it up with curiosity. We should be curious when it comes to sex.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for people, especially the longer you've been together. You think it'd be easier, but sometimes it's harder because you think you know your spouse, and it's like you got to get out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
You got to get back into the creative mode, back into the curiosity mode, because there is more.
For sure. Learning your spouse's desires, learning your spouse's fantasies, not being afraid to ask questions. And matter of fact, we actually have a list of questions later on this podcast that we're going to share with you that you can ask your spouse in case you're like, I don't even know how to have I don't know what question to ask my spouse.
Yeah.
We're going to give you questions to ask your spouse.
Yeah, no, that's good.
So here's even a tip that you can do. There is the what if game. The what if game is where you can explore curious questions, right? So like, what if we tried something totally new this weekend? What would it be? What if game? What would it be? Now you don't have to answer that.
I'm not going to.
I figured you wouldn't. But that is a question you can ask your spouse because it gets you thinking like, yeah, what would it be that's different?
And honestly, I feel like just mixing it in with like stuff we've talked about before, stuff we do, this would be a really good like texting. Because sometimes you got to think about it and then you're awkwardly staring at your spouse like, well, what is it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've been dealing with the kids all day. I haven't been thinking about that.
Right.
So this is a really great like texting conversation.
That's a great idea. And those are some of my favorite things is like during the day is like texting you because it's kind of like getting it ready for the night.
Just as long as I'm not grocery shopping.
But it always happens when you're grocery shopping. I don't understand why, but it does.
Okay, well.
But that's what we need to do is to spice up your sex life. You need to be curious about your spouse. Curious about what they're thinking about. Curious even like, do they know what you're thinking about?
Right.
So it's like you got to be able to share that with each other.
Because the reality is there's always the one person that's more creative and curious than the other. And so no matter which one you are, you need the other person to either spark it or because you need to spark my creativity. I'm not creative in general. I'm black and white. Here I am. This is what you get. But you spark my curiosity and my creativity and you make me think about it.
I was going to say, so because you recently had a conversation with somebody that the husband is that way.
Right. The husband is me.
That sounds
I'm not
super
the husband.
weird.
I'm not the husband, but we are the similar ones. And so she's asking me, which is really great because I'm the same as her husband. And it's like, but you just have to be open to it. You have to know that your sex life with your spouse is not about you. It's about them. And so let's just say it. It can be awkward. It can be uncomfortable. But all things that are new are. Anything that you do that is new is awkward and uncomfortable at first.
Yep.
And so just having the conversation and saying, hey, listen, this is something that I desire. This is something that I need from you. And you got to get past it. If you can't be vulnerable and intimate with your spouse, who else can you be that with?
So what would you say to the person that is trying to open up and have that conversation with their spouse? Would you say, hey, this is a texting conversation? Is this a conversation face-to-face, over dinner, around the family? Is it?
I would say texting because it gives you time to think on it.
That's good.
And then that way, if you are like, I feel like I'm not embarrassed in front of you, but if you are like embarrassed, or sometimes it's not even embarrassment. Sometimes it's like past trauma. It's like you have to be, aware of those things as well. But I think texting is best because then it gives you time to digest it, think on it, and respond.
Yeah. Now let's go to point number 2, which is incorporating toys for playful fun. Okay. That's number 2, incorporating toys for playful fun.
Right.
How would you tell this person then to presenting to their spouse, they would like to try other things?
Well, this might throw you off. Because this is number 5. I actually wouldn't start with a toy. That might be too much.
What's number 5?
Number 5 is dressing up, like putting something different on.
Yeah.
Whether it is role play or whether it is just something like more sexy, that might be the foot in the door.
Yeah.
Is something different, and that even might spark the curiosity of something new. It's not as abrasive, maybe. Yeah. So that's what I would start with.
And I love that idea.
Okay.
Well, I think what goes good with number 2 and number 5, so incorporating toys, incorporating a different outfit, dress up, whatever, is, and I'll put the link below, whether it's looking on a Christian website for different outfits to wear, because you don't want to just go on any website, even on Amazon. It's chicks wearing the outfit.
That ain't going to look like that on me. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Well, and also like as a dude, you're not trying to like slip into lust and like now having like, oh, here's a new fantasy,
it's
you know?
going to be real disappointing.
But even going with each other to a store.
Yeah.
You know, because that's where, again, because sometimes you don't know what you're curious about until you get in a different environment.
Right.
And so be like,
spark your curiosity.
For sure.
But I think like if we're talking about that person, because I really do think it's talking about the person that isn't comfortable with this, they ain't going to walk into a store.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so I think honestly, the best bet is
online,
is the website, and you can link it below.
There we go. Something else, and this is number 3. So again, we just did 2 and 5 already. So now we're at number 3. Mm-hmm. We're just gonna go all kinds of out of order.
Yeah, we are.
When it comes to it, is even having the mindset of different lubrications for sex.
Yeah, I mean, we're in all different times of life, and so just the uncomfortability, you know, whether you've just had a kid or whether you're going through menopause, like, you got to be aware. Like, these are very practical things to like be aware of. And I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it.
I wish you would.
I'm just going to say it.
Just do it.
Go get the $16 container of coconut oil at Costco, because all the other lubes they just don't work.
They work. They're just super sticky.
No, they're sticky.
Well, let me say this, okay? Because
they just don't work.
We're different though, because like the warming lubes and the cooling lubes, I am totally down with.
Okay,
like,
now you're getting personal.
I'm just saying, like, I mean, because there's so many different out there, you know.
It's true.
But like, but coconut oil is just, I mean, it's used for everything. So, which is helpful to know, you know, like.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, the coconut oil works. But again, these are things that are going to be conversations to have with your spouse.
Yeah.
You know, because some people are like, yeah, I'm a coconut kind of girl. I don't want a hot lube. I don't want a cool lube.
We can go straight from a massage to going for it. There's no in between. We need one thing.
One thing.
I'm a simple kind of woman.
Yeah, that you are.
I am. I'm sorry.
Okay, number 4, sex games.
Uh-huh.
This will help you with your curiosity also.
I think so too. And I also think this comes next into like the walking gently into it with your spouse, because it you know, it just gets your mind rolling without it being like, again, too abrasive and like too much. It's funny, it's fun. Like, I think it breaks down, like, it could be silly. It breaks down that vulnerability in the bedroom if it could be awkward. And it's like, and there's anything from like physical games of like dice to like, there's apps. There's like a bunch of stuff.
There's board games.
There's card games. There's calendars and all the things.
Yep.
And so that is not as much.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For those people that are struggling.
Right. So it is. It's just baby steps. And again, being curious. What would that look like? What kind of game would you want to do if we did a game?
Right.
You know, like, what does that look like? Does it look like an all-out Monopoly kind of game? Or is it just cards?
That Monopoly is a long game.
It is.
Can you hang?
You already know I can't. Like, this is real. Like, hey, listen, this is one of those quick Uno games. Well, I guess Uno's not that quick either.
Sometimes you gotta. Are we doing fast food? Are we doing a 3-course meal? What are we doing today?
There we go. That's a conversation to have too.
Because that is real. I mean, this is a rabbit trail, but that's real.
Yep.
I'm like, listen, I'm tired.
Right.
99% of the time.
99% of your day, you are tired. But that's a conversation to have, because if one of you's in the mood and one of you isn't, well, the one that's in the mood, you might be wanting a 3-course meal. And the other one's like, hey, this is like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
You know, like we can. Now, again, because it shows that this is a sacrifice. I am giving up something
Absolutely.
for you.
It's not a no.
It's not a no, but it's not a, hey, I don't have 30 minutes. You know, it's like, I got 2.
I got 2.
I got 2. What you got? I got 2.
I got 2. I got.
Yeah. So again, to help you understand why these conversations matter about curiosity is that there's the Journal of Marriage and Family published this, that they found that couples who maintain curiosity and engage in new experiences together report higher relationship satisfaction and greater emotional closeness.
That's good.
It's so important to not just get stuck in a rut, but to bring other things in that get you excited, right? When you see that, oh my gosh, you got a new outfit, I'm excited about that. Or fill in the blank, you know, for a woman talking to the man.
Yeah, and here's what I think. You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
You've asked me plenty of times, and I've told you no sometimes to some things that you want to do or bring in or whatever. I'm like, I'm going to say no to this one. But the majority of the time, and this literally should be your MO, the majority of the time, like there's some hard stops I got, but the majority of the time, you should not say no to your spouse, whether that's frequency, whether that's what they want to do, their curiosity, their creativity. Try to, whether it's a Chick-fil-A night, whether it's a whatever, try to not say no. Find some way to say yes to something, right? And so even in the Bible, it talks about, and I know you got a scripture, but in the Bible, it talks about like, you know, do not like, it's about praying and fasting, but it's saying don't stop having sex with your spouse unless it's for prayer and fasting for a short period of time. Because I know that there are people out there right now that are not having sex like once a week. Like that's like crazy for people. It's more of like, hey, our anniversary's in 6 months. I'll see you then.
Gosh.
Like that should not be the case. The Bible is clear. Do not keep yourself separated sexually unless it's for a short period of time for prayer and fasting. And I have never heard you come up to me and say, hey, I'm going to spend some time in prayer and fasting. We're going to be celibate for the next, week.
I'm just not that spiritual.
You're not. So I'm just like, you will not eat food for 2 weeks, but sex? I'm like, that has never happened.
So that's 1 Corinthians 7:5. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement. So even that, there's got to be an agreement.
There's no agreement
for a limited time
no
that
agreement.
You may devote yourself to prayer.
Right.
But then come together again.
Yes. I want to be the one to tell you, couples, you should not be refraining from one another in this area of your life, lest the enemy come and steal in this area.
For sure. Because when you are now depriving your spouse of sex, they will look for it somewhere else.
It's human nature.
It is. Because God designed us to become one, getting married, and enjoying each other.
Yeah.
And when I'm not able to enjoy you, right? When a wife isn't able to enjoy her husband, that wife doesn't feel that she is appreciated by her husband or vice versa, and they begin to look elsewhere. And I'm not saying you're going to have a straight affair, but now with phones and computers so easily at our fingertips and porn is like crazy online, there it is.
Yeah.
And you might even think, well, no, I'm not going to be looking. It's a slippery slope. You might be on Instagram, you might be on TikTok, you might be on Facebook, you're on YouTube, and you just see an image.
Right.
And that image leads you down a rabbit trail of looking up other things that you one day can't believe, how did I end up here?
Well, and here's the flip side. Like, you can't be mad at your spouse for looking at something like that when you have been depriving them for so long. Like, this has to be an active conversation. We have to be so intentional with this stuff because this is just the world we live in. And so I know that the enemy, this is for believers, really. But if you think about it as a non-believer, you were doing anything and everything that you could have sex before you got married.
Yep.
You were getting creative. You were finding the spots. You were doing all the things. You were getting real creative and you were real curious. But after you get married, now we're busy. Now we don't have time. Now I'm too tired. Now I don't feel good. Like it's the complete opposite. And what
Or
a
I can't
lie.
believe you would think to do that. I can't believe you would want me to wear that. I can't believe you would
Right.
want to bring that.
Right. And you were doing the exact opposite before you were married. And so there's literally no excuses. It's suck it up, buttercup.
Well, that leads into number 2 of this
Yeah.
podcast, which is open communication about sex. Does your sex life feel like it's stuck on repeat?
Yeah, we're going to show you how curiosity and creativity can turn routine into excitement.
All right, let's be real for a minute. Why is it so hard to talk about sex in marriage?
Yeah, because the reality is it's going to be the most important conversation in your marriage. And so today we're going to help you try to break the silence. If you're feeling awkward about talking to your spouse about sex, trust me, you are not alone.
Yeah, but what if we could tell you that having these conversations would actually bring you closer and more intimate with your spouse? Is there something you've been wanting to ask your spouse about sex, but you just have not found the words?
Yeah, today we are going to give you the words, and we're also going to give you the confidence to say them.
You have a friend that her and her husband are in the spot where he could have sex once a month, isn't necessarily,
Once a year.
gosh, I can't even. We got to pray for that dude. But the mindset of her wanting to have the conversation almost might be like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
If he's just thinking once a year.
Yeah.
And so as we're talking about this and having open communication about sex, what are some of the things that you would share with her on how to start dropping these, how to have the conversation with him to get him to that place to open up?
I mean, the reality is, after being married for so many years, like, you just have to have the hard conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think the subtle hints, the sexual touching, the asking, and the being denied, like, after so long, you have to have the hard conversation.
Yeah.
You have to use the right words, because you don't want to you don't want to shame your spouse. You just have to verbalize your needs.
That's good.
The Bible is very clear about a nagging wife. Go look it up. Go look up all the nagging wife scriptures. There is a ton of them. And so being a nagging wife is not going to get you what you are desiring. And so you have to communicate in such a way that you're telling your spouse, these are my desires, and I feel like they're not being met. And in turn, that makes me feel fill in the blank. I don't feel loved. I don't feel desired. I don't feel needed. And you have to let your spouse know the way that it's making you feel. It's not you're doing this. It's, this is how I feel. Because you really can't tell them, you know what I mean? You can't point the finger. The only real data you have is how you feel. That's the only truthful data you have. You don't know their motives. You don't know the day that they had. You don't know fully, like, if they've had past trauma. You don't know the extent of it. You weren't there. And so the only real data you have is how it's making you feel.
That's good. So that was Proverbs 21:9. Better to live on the corner of a roof than to share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Proverbs 21:19. Better to live in the desert than with a quarrelsome, nagging wife. And let me tell you, I've been to Arizona. And it is hell. The desert is hell. If you live in Arizona and you watch, God bless you.
Well,
But
2 weeks ago, living on the roof was like the desert here. It's like
oh my
115
gosh,
degrees.
it was crazy hot. And literally the Bible is saying it's better to be in those spots, to be in Death Valley, than to be with a quarrelsome, nagging wife. So again, tact matters.
Absolutely.
The way that you have these conversations. Now, let's say you and your spouse are in a great place and you have sex multiple times a week. You just want to know, hey, how do we try new things? How do we explore? Well, we actually put a list of questions together for you for free that you can download right below. You can go ahead and get that right now. But we're going to run through some of these fun and playful questions to ask your spouse. Now, we're not going to answer these. We're just going to read through them. So the first one is, where is one place you would like to have sex where we haven't? Where is one place that you would like to have sex where we haven't? Or here's number 2. What's a fantasy you have? Number 3, what's something you want to try that we haven't? Like, these are going to open up communication.
Right.
These can be text messages that you send, just like you mentioned earlier. This could be as you're driving on your way to church with no kids in the car, having these conversations.
Pro tip, ask your spouse if this is a good time, because your daughter might have your phone and be reading it. Like that happened the other day.
You just shouldn't let her have the phone anymore.
It is. My kids don't even have my phone often. She was making like an emoji or something.
I know.
I'm like, listen, you gotta. And I've told you before. You gotta ask. Hey, is this a good time? That was on you.
I don't even know what I said. What did I say?
I don't remember either. But still.
Yeah.
I was like, good thing I was looking. I was like watching what she was doing. I like snatched
it. That's funny.
She like read half of the sentence.
At least I'm not sending pictures.
Ay. We don't do that.
No, that would not even turn you on. You'd be like, okay, dude, now you're the person, not for a year. Okay, here's a good question to ask your spouse. What is your favorite position? Right? You want to know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What is your favorite position? Another question. What type of setting or atmosphere makes you feel the most comfortable and excited? Is it candles? Is it music? Is it in the living room, on the floor, on the hardwood floor? Said no one ever.
That's not it.
What's a non-sexual thing I do that turns you on? What's the answer for that for you?
That's a great question. Actually, when you are, I like to watch you when you're like in the zone, when you're like teaching or leading or like doing something that you're really, really good at and you're like confident in it. It's actually not when you're trying to be sexual and perverted towards me.
Yeah, I understood.
Which is
all the time.
95% of the time.
I'm just going to start doing leadership stuff all the time.
Start preaching at me. Oh, yeah. Hey, do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button if that helped you right now.
What's something that makes you feel really attractive?
Like like I feel good about myself. Yeah. Oh.
Because when you feel good about yourself, you're more likely to have sex.
No, it's true. Like when I've had a really good workout that day, when I'm eating really well.
Did you go to the gym yet today?
No, your mother left us and I don't have time.
Did you eat good today?
Yeah.
just trying to see where this day is going.
I got a haircut.
Yeah, I know. It looks good too. So do you feel attractive?
Yeah.
You
and
look
it's like
great.
when I can like get a full shower, like all the things.
If you notice right now, Krissy's haircut, I just want you to comment that below. Looking good. Yeah, there you go. You can even comment on emoji, little boom. Okay, here's a question. What kind of foreplay do you enjoy the most? Now, I'm not asking you this question.
I know, I'm going to answer it.
The ones that aren't sexual, I'll ask you. But these ones, right? So that's a question. That's a great question to ask your spouse. We've actually had that conversation before. Mm-hmm. We're like, what do you enjoy the most? What type of lingerie or outfit would you like to see me wear?
None.
Deal. Done. Is there a fun or romantic experience we could create together that would make sex feel more adventurous? Okay, so we have 35 of these questions. Let's just pop through a couple of them and just see what other ones we have. Let's see. You find one that looks good to you, and I'll read one that looks good to me. Like this one. When do you feel closest to me sexually? It's like that could be a time where your love tank is actually being filled, right? Mm-hmm. So if your love language is physical touch, you're actually the most attracted to your spouse when they are just rubbing your feet or your calves or giving you a back massage or whatever, or just cuddling you, right? Yeah. Just holding your hand and going for a walk. If it's quality time, it's just that, spending time together where you're feeling that love and feeling fulfillment.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I like the aftercare and reflection questions.
Go for it.
I think those are really good. How do you feel after we're intimate? Is there anything that would make you feel more loved afterwards?
Yeah, I guess I would ask, like, is it weird that I cry afterwards?
Stop.
Could you imagine? Like, why do you cry afterwards? That's a question I've been wondering.
Oh, I mean, some people do. Yeah. It's just so beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Oh, my gosh. Do you feel affirmed and loved in the way that I respond to you during and after intimacy? Like, these are really great questions.
Yep.
Because it's going to, like, as a woman, it's going to affect the next time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The afterwards affects the next time.
Another one for after and reflection is, how can I better support your needs and feelings after we've been intimate?
Yeah. How can I console you while you're crying?
Give me a box of tissue and some chocolate.
I want it too.
Yeah.
I want that too.
So we have different areas. So there's the fun and playful questions, there are intimacy connection questions, open communication and trust questions, exploration and growth questions, and then the aftercare and reflection questions. So like, again, since we're talking about communication, here's a couple of communication questions. Do you feel heard and understood when we talk about sex? If not, how can I improve? Like, that's a good question, especially for your friend asking, because maybe your friend is the one who, again, she wants to try new things and everything, but to know where is her husband's heart, like, hey, do you, now we're having these conversations, do you feel like I'm hearing you?
Yeah.
Do you feel understood? And vice versa. Like, now he can ask her, like, as he's trying new things or whatnot, or just trying to have sex twice a year instead of just one time a year. Does she feel understood?
Right.
Does she feel heard? You
Right.
know? So again, these questions are for free below. They're fun to ask on a date, via text, when you're working out together, when you're going for a walk, whatever. You don't have to ask them all in a row. Pick 2, pick 3.
Right.
Randomly, hey, here, we're going to read number 12. We're going to read number 20. That's it.
Yep.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is a healthy view on sex. It's so important to have a healthy view on sex, because what if we told you that God actually wants you to have an amazing sex life?
Yeah, it's just not okay, but it's actually the way that God designed us to thrive in this area. So today we're going to dive into what a healthy sex life looks like. When you think about sex, do you see it as a duty or a delight?
Yeah. See, today we're going to talk to you about how to transform your mindset into seeing what sex can be and how it can actually improve your marriage. Okay, so the number one thing, understanding, is sex is a gift from God.
Amen.
God designed sex for a husband and for a wife, right? And
but here's the cool thing. Like, he obviously created it to procreate. He didn't have to make it feel good. Like, that is a gift.
Praise God.
It is a gift. Like, that is a gift in it of itself. Obviously, kids are gifts too, but it's like we get to enjoy it.
Yes.
During.
Right.
And
so it's not just the physical, but it's also the spiritual and the emotional.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it brings us closer together. There's actually research that shows, again, when you have a higher sex life, that you are actually stronger emotionally because you trust each other.
Right.
Sex is about trust. And that is, and again, where some people feel like they're not being heard or they're not having as much sex as they want or whatever it is, there's a lack of trust in that relationship. They begin to lose trust. And so if you want that intimacy to grow, if you want your spiritual life to grow with your spouse, because when two become one physically.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is what is happening in the act of sex.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that we understand that when we embrace sex as a gift from God, it becomes a powerful way to connect on multiple levels, emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
And it's so hard, and it can be hard sometimes, because if you're not there emotionally and spiritually, right? It's like, what comes first?
Yeah.
But you got to get there.
Well, it's even kind of like we talk about so many times people wait to be motivated to do things.
That's true.
But what do we say?
You just do it, and then motivation will come later.
That's it. You will never be motivated to go to the gym.
Never.
Right? Until you start going to the gym and you see the results. Now you're motivated.
Now you're motivated.
You're not motivated to put down the ice cream until you see the results. And now you're motivated to, I'm not going to pick up the ice cream cone because I'm getting healthy.
Right.
Right? I'm never motivated to save money until you see your bank account going up. And now, oh, no, I'm not going to spend money on that stupid thing. I'm putting this in savings because I have a vision and a future.
Right.
It's the same thing with your sex life.
Yeah.
Understanding that you are not just going to be motivated. Us men probably are motivated.
Yeah,
that's why we're like, hey, you need a massage, you need a foot rub, you need some flowers, like what you need.
I like all those things.
Okay, fine. Sounds good. You get them all. Sex should be mutual and selfless. Sex and marriage should be about serving each other, not just meeting one person's needs.
I think this is so big, because here's the thing. It's not only in the bedroom that we're supposed to be selfless. This is a very anti-cultural thing right now. It's, what can I get out of it? What is in it for me? And that's not how this is designed.
Right.
It is designed for your spouse. And obviously, they're to do it in return.
Yep.
And so this is a heart check. Because I can tell you that I'm tired all day long, but you, like, tell me that I don't know, you're going to take me somewhere really fun that I want to go, I'm going to wake right up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you got to, we always tell each other, like, get your head in the game.
Yep.
Get your head in the game.
Get ready.
Get ready.
If this is speaking to you, I want you to click below and hit that subscribe button right now. So mutual satisfaction.
Really?
Satisfaction. We were watching a reel the other day, and literally she was just struggling.
Sure.
She was just like
I
I said.
don't know what she was trying to say.
Oh man, mutual satisfaction are when both spouses seek to honor and please one another.
Yeah.
Now you will not know how to please your spouse without communicating with your spouse.
Yeah.
Communication matters so much in sex. It matters with, again, the questions we talked about. How do you like, what's your favorite kind of foreplay? What's your favorite kind of position? Would you want to wear something? Is this uncomfortable? You know, like there's so many things that matter because again, I'm serving you and vice versa. You're serving me. So having those conversations. 1 Corinthians 7 says, encourage couples to not withhold sex from each other, but to come to, or it doesn't say this, but it does encourage couples to not withhold sex from each other, but to come together in mutual love and respect. A healthy view of sex is one where both partners prioritize the other's needs. It's thinking really thinking, I'm going to meet her need. I'm going to meet his need. Now, the amazing thing about sex is my need also gets met during it.
Right.
But when I'm focusing
Not
on
every
you,
time. I mean, there are couples out there that isn't the case. And so you just have to be selfless.
and that also goes into the conversation because for some reason, I don't know, it's just the culture where we grow up in. So many times people think that when a woman is going to have an orgasm, that it is going to be through penetration and not understanding actually
The human body.
yeah, an orgasm the other way, you know,
Yeah.
like, and so that's another thing to have that conversation of if you're feeling that, okay, every time we have sex, the husband's having an orgasm and you never are, you need to have that conversation. What does that look like
Right.
to make sure that you also are able to
Yeah.
enjoy that,
Yeah.
you know?
That's really good.
Okay. So again, a question to talk to your spouse about, or maybe not a question, but a conversation to have with your spouse. Number 3, sex is key to emotional intimacy. Okay. Sexual intimacy is a crucial part of building emotional intimacy in marriage. A healthy sex life is connected to a healthy emotional relationship. And when couples regularly engage in sexual intimacy, it strengthens their emotional bond.
Yeah.
You want stronger emotional bond with your spouse, have a stronger sex life.
Which comes with conversation. It's all one. It's all intertwined. And so it's so important that just conversation is so important.
And that goes to even knowing, like you alluded to earlier, the season you're in. How busy is your schedule?
Yeah.
So what does that look like in busy seasons, in stressful seasons, right? In seasons of like you just said, a new child, or maybe you have littles at home, so you are really exhausted at night. How do you have these conversations to make sure that you're not putting one another on the back burner because of everything else that needs to happen?
Yeah.
So how would you say a husband or a wife needs to engage in that conversation?
We're specifically talking about
I would say
small children or just having kids.
I would say just about actually making sure that we don't lose that emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
And so the amount, I don't want to say the amount, but knowing that, yeah, what leads us to that connection, right?
Yeah.
Because again, if you just feel like, we mentioned this before, that you are either working back to back, side to side, or face to face, right? Back to back, you're going different directions.
Yep.
A lot of times couples are working side by side where they're advancing together, but they're not actually looking face to face and making that connection.
Right.
And so it's like getting to that place of face-to-face connection. How would you have that conversation?
The conversation, or how would you like walk it out? Because I think even in those hard seasons of like just having a baby or having small children, like I think you did a really good job at like meeting my like practical needs. Like those were really difficult times. Like we talked about earlier, I did not feel sexy. I did not want to. You just had a baby. Like You're exhausted. You smell like puke. You don't know the last time you had a shower. And so I feel like you were so aware of my needs, like, hey, go take a shower. Maybe it was my smell. Maybe it was the desperation on my face. I'm not sure which one it was. But like you were always aware that it's been a long day. I'm literally like keeping my child alive with my own body. You know what I'm saying? Like all of those things, you were very aware. And if you feel like your spouse is not aware of those things, maybe you just need to tell them. Not every person, I'm sure there was plenty of times that I communicated these needs to you. And by the third child, you had it figured out. You're like, oh, she needs a lot. And so not every person is aware of your needs because everybody is so different. And so having that conversation, I would say you need to think about what you need. Maybe you don't even know. And so it's like, okay, what would give me sanity right now? What would actually give me a real rest right now? Because sometimes a nap wouldn't. It's like, I don't necessarily want to sleep. Maybe it's a shower. Maybe it's whatever the case may be. Maybe it's going grocery shopping by yourself. I don't know. Getting out of the house and not looking like you're going to Walmart. I don't know what it is, but you have to don't put all of the pressure on your spouse to meet your needs when the reality is you don't even know what you need. Like that's very selfish. And so think about what you need, what would really help me in this time, and then bring it to your spouse. Hey, I don't think you're aware of this because I wasn't even aware of this. So I want to let you know that this would really help me.
Yeah.
Because the reality is women, we are pretty self-sufficient. We can take care of stuff. We can get it done. We can suck it up, put on our boots, and we'll do it. We're very independent. We can do things by ourselves, but we don't have to.
Right.
And so you have to invite your spouse to allow to help, but you have to know what you need.
So, and this would lead into our next one, that sex should be free from guilt and shame. So some Christians are raised in environments where sex is viewed negatively.
Yeah.
And so it's like, just that, it's viewed negatively. But sex within marriage is pure, holy, should be celebrated. Yeah. It's fun. It's exciting. Mm-hmm. It should be something talked about.
Yeah.
And so how do we, if somebody watching right now, if somebody listening right now is on that side of like, it's shameful to them. Mm-hmm. They feel guilty when they have sex because they were taught at such a young age about like purity, which matters.
Right.
But now it wasn't though, but
it was don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. And now you're married and you can have sex. It's
right.
Like, but it's ingrained in me not to have sex.
Right.
And it could be for any reason. I don't want to just say that whole like purity movement.
Right.
It could be from something that's actually hurtful.
Yep.
Trauma, like abuse.
Yep.
It could be. And so I would say this in the most sensitive way possible, that what happened to you or what you were told or whatever the case may be, the trauma, the abuse, the wrong information, because the wrong information is don't have sex. It's just wait, right? So whatever that was for you. But I would say, even though those things happened to you and those things weren't your fault, it is your responsibility to get healing. And so that's different for everybody. Mm-hmm. If it's trauma and abuse, there's healing in the Lord. Like he can literally heal you from that past trauma. There's counseling. There's so much that but it is your responsibility. It's not just something that you can just push to the side, because if you did choose to get married, this is a part of the responsibility. And I say that with such
empathy,
yeah, and sympathy, because I've been there. But you do have to at some point take the responsibility. It's hard. Sometimes it's a long road. But it is your responsibility, because you have to understand that this isn't just for you. This is for your spouse. Your healing is also for your spouse. and actually for your children. You are not going to understand the weight of, you think it's a secret. You think nobody's going to know. You think it's not going to be passed on. I'm telling you, it is going to affect your children. And so it is your responsibility to find healing.
Yeah, that's good. Even when you saying that reminds me of the Bible talks about renewing our minds.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have thoughts renewed. And that comes with healing. That comes from being able to get to a place of getting it out, talking to a counselor, talking to a therapist, diving into the Bible and actually seeing what God says about sex, about what it was.
Renewing your mind.
Exactly. Not about the way, because even as you were just saying that, like when you're told like, don't have sex, don't have sex, don't have sex. It's almost like if you're told before you're 16, don't drive the car, don't drive the car, don't drive the car. And all of a sudden you're 16. It's like, hey, here are the keys. It's like, whoa, I don't want to drive.
Right.
I've never been, because it's always been saying don't. And maybe you have the fear of like, what's going to happen when I drive? Is there going to be a car accident? Is someone going to hit me? You know, all the different things. Instead of understanding, no, you get to drive when you're 16.
Right.
And same thing sexually. You get the keys when you're married and then go for it.
Right.
And so, and understanding that you shouldn't feel guilt, you shouldn't feel shame if you were raised a certain way. And then also having the mindset, like what you just said, is there conversations you need to have with your spouse, with a counselor, with God, and breaking free from chains from your past. We've already talked about this, but that sex needs to be communicated openly. Open communication of sex is vital for a healthy marriage. We need to talk about our desires, our needs, boundaries. And you've mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Where you're like, nope.
That's a hard no. I'm not doing it.
That's a hard pass right there. We should be honest with each other about what we enjoy and what makes us uncomfortable, and that it will foster a safe space for growth and connection.
Yeah.
So we just have to get to that place. And again, I should be able to have these conversations with you and not get offended and vice versa, because I want what's best for you and you want what's best for me.
Yeah.
Right. And I want to please you and you want to please me. So it's like, okay, what do we want to do? What can we bring in? What does my wife feel comfortable with?
If this is helping you today, I want you to take some time right now. Hit that subscribe button below.
Okay, let's jump down to this. We're going to talk about sexual frequency. How much sex should we have? More than once a year.
I was going to say, I think we all agree on that, but that's not necessarily true.
No. All right, so what is the right number, the amount of times to have sex in a week?
Spoiler alert, there's no right number, but today we're going to be talking about how often is actually a healthy amount.
All right, so all the men want to know this. Is there a secret to having more sex more often?
Yes, but it's not what you think. So today we're going to share how couples can actually increase their sexual frequency in a healthy and fulfilling way.
All right, so we got 5 points for sexual frequency. Number 1, sexual frequency is personal, not prescriptive.
Right.
There is no one shoe that fits all. It is not, I listen to Joe and Krissy and their goal is 3 times a week. That's what we're going to do. It's not prescriptive.
Right.
It's personal. You have to have the conversation with your spouse.
It's personal. It's seasonal. Right? Like, I feel like if I let you, you'd say one number and we would die trying to get that number one, like however many times a week.
Yep.
But it's seasonal sometimes.
It is.
You know?
Yep.
And let's like call a spade a spade. Sex isn't always like intercourse, right? Because when we talk about frequency, or not frequency, we are talking about frequency. When we talk about seasonal stuff, right? We physically could not have intercourse after a baby.
Right.
Right? I'm like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. And listen, ladies, I followed the 6-week rule. I was like,
Krissy's a rule follower.
I am a rule follower, and I was like, don't touch me. But we did get creative, and it wasn't a nothing for 6 weeks. We got creative.
Yeah.
And so that counts too.
100% it did. Still does. So guys, I mean, that's such a good conversation to have because again, you just have a baby. Well, the guys didn't. The woman had the baby. But guys, because of that, you might be at a place where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not having sex for 6 weeks. Like, how does this work out? Having that conversation about with your spouse, what can we do? That you just said, what's not in intercourse, right? What can we do?
I'll tell you what you can do. You can do those dishes, and you can do that laundry, and you can do all the other things if you if you want anything after that baby came. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh my gosh.
That's real. Like, that is real. This is not a, hey, woman, I expect you to do X, Y, Z, and then start all over again with your ABCs, and then tonight. You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping a baby alive. Like, I'm being real. Like, if this is something that you expect from a spouse, you better be putting out in every other area.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it like it is.
Say it like it is, girl.
All these women need me to say it, and I'll say it again.
So send this to your husband if you just had a baby. Okay, so we need to communicate openly with our needs and desires and understandings. That frequency varies depending on life stages, on health, and on emotional connection. Mm-hmm. That's also a sign that maybe you're not as healthy emotionally if you're not healthy sexually.
Right.
Those two things are tied together so much. Mm-hmm. The more sex, the stronger the emotions.
Right.
The stronger the emotional connection, the stronger the sex life. Mm-hmm. Weak emotional connection, weak sex life.
Right.
Weak sex life, weak emotional connection. Mm-hmm. You cannot have one without the other.
Right.
So if you want your spouse to be more emotionally connected, the question is, are you sexually connected?
That's so good. It's such a great way to measure it. Right? You can lie to yourself all day long. No, we're good. He tells me everything. Like, no. This is real. It's directly linked.
Yep. So Krissy and I, we joke about this. We used to have some friends that they would post a lot of pictures of themselves on Instagram, but behind the scenes they were struggling and relationally.
Yeah, like we just knew their relationship and it was awful.
Yeah, I wouldn't say awful.
It was pretty awful.
Okay.
Toxic.
But Krissy and I, we didn't.
Like the standing joke is like we literally forget to take pictures like on our anniversary with each other.
Right. So you're always seeing on YouTube all the thumbnails that we have to purposely take the photo because we're always forgetting to take the photo.
We never take photos.
But we just saw a statistic that showed that couples that do not take photos or post themselves actually have stronger relationships.
Are actually happier.
Because
yes.
Because they're not trying to BS the world.
I'm actually living my life with you and enjoying it.
100%.
I don't have to show anybody.
It's like, I got to take this picture and post this and all that stuff and pretend. Mm-hmm. And again, to your point, we were just talking about the emotional connection.
Yeah.
We should know emotionally. We're not trying to lie to everyone else to say we're okay. I could give a crap what everyone else thinks.
That actually makes me feel better about I feel like this kind of, I don't know statistically, but I feel like this applies to all relationships. And I'm just like, I don't take pictures with nobody. And I think in the moment, I had a friend, we were actually getting breakfast. This was not too long ago. And we went to this super cute place. It was like total photo opt, setup. And we were probably almost done with breakfast. And she was like, hey, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you not wanting to take photos and do all this stuff. We're actually having real conversation. And at first I was like, what are you talking about? Because I don't do that. Mm-hmm. I'm not like, hey, let's get all these pictures and let everybody know how good we are and how, I'm just not that person. So I honestly didn't know what she meant. And she's like, well, I have these, friends and relatives, and they'd be over. There was a big greenery wall, and it was super cute. I think we ended up, just because we had this conversation, took a picture, which I don't know where it's at. And so I think this is relative to all relationships. I'm literally in deep conversation with you at breakfast or dinner, or we're actually on a date.
Yep.
We're not showing the world that we're on a date. We're actually just doing it. Yep. And so that actually made me feel better when I read that statistic. Yeah.
We were somewhere recently, and we literally thought we need to take a photo because we're actually dressed up together. Okay.
And did we?
I think we did. I don't know where we were, though. Number 2, okay? Quality over quantity.
Yep.
Because you don't want to just have it be Chick-fil-A all the time, right? If you're just
no.
You want quality. Mm-hmm. Again, that takes time. We talk about this often, where sometimes one of you is like a microwave and the other one's like a crock pot, you know? So when you're in the bedroom, you want it to be a like, again, it's not always a crock pot, but you want it to be that place of that.
Right.
It's a 3-course meal. We're going to take our time. We're not rushing this. It's quality. There's a connection.
Are you telling me you'd rather have one good quality, these words, over like 3 or 4 quantities?
So here's last night I was exhausted and
how the tables have turned.
Right. And literally my mind was, I don't want to have sex tonight because it's going to be bad quality, but it will add to the quantity for the week, where I'd rather wait till tomorrow night and I have energy and it's good quality.
Yeah.
So that's where...
That actually surprises me. I'm not going to lie.
I'm just exhausted. Exhausted. Because usually, and I've joked with other guys about this, is that if you wake up at 2 a.m. because Ellis, our 3-year-old, wakes you up and you can't fall back asleep, it's like, girl, wake me up. We'll make good time of that. You know, like I got a plan. But last night I was just so exhausted. I was like, I would say it's all, again, it's all depending on seasonal, right?
I got you.
But helping other people out, like, because you can't play the card now, well, hey, we're going to have really good quality. Right?
Right.
So now there's no quantity. It's like, no, it's all comes back to seasonal. And again, knowing that, okay, I've been up since 4:30 in the morning and had a long day, right? So it's like not expecting that. And you're great with it where you don't like expect it of me, you know? Whereas like for me, I'm a guy. So I'm like, wait, I thought we were going to do this. You know, you show so much more grace than I do. Okay. So here's a practical tip. Prioritize setting aside undistracted time for intimacy, whether it's spontaneous moment or a planned date night. Because again, when it's planned, it might be something that's going to be more quality. Right. Right. When it's spontaneous, it might be something that it could be quality, but it might add on to the quantity. Yeah. You know, so just understanding. Yeah, both. That it's both and.
And the reality is when you got little kids running around, there's not a lot of spontaneous.
No, there's not.
There's just not.
Well, and that goes to number 3, seasons of life affect frequency.
It's true.
When we have kids running around and they're exhausting us, and then, I mean, you know how it is. If you're a parent out there and you lay your kids down, you know you don't just lay them down once, not twice, nay, not even thrice. They come in the bedroom so many times. And let me just tell you, I'm not trying to beat you guys up, but I'm going to. If you don't have a bedroom, or let's say this, you have a bedroom for your kids, but they are sleeping in your bedroom, I can already tell you that one of you is upset that you're not getting as much sex as you want.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know how you have sex with a kid in the room. Like, get them in their own bed, get them in their own room, and have time together. Because here's the thing, you actually, science shows this, statistics show this, you do not get good sleep with your children in the room.
I don't get good sleep without my kids in the room. I just don't sleep. But it's definitely significantly worse when they're in the bed.
Yeah. But seasons of life, right? They affect frequency. Because one day, these little kids that are trying to sleep in your bedroom, one day they're going to be off to college. And then you get to walk around the house naked. Oh, yeah. And have sex all the time.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Sure is. Sure is. Okay, so here's a tip. If frequency dips, find creative ways to connect, such as increase non-sexual touching. Yeah. That matters. Sharing meaningful conversations. That matters. Do that over breakfast. Do that over coffee. Do that on a car ride. Do it on a walk. Schedule a romantic getaway to rekindle intimacy. So like we just went away for our anniversary and it was just a few days. And that was awesome getting away. And we had plenty of sex. But was also just a deeper connection for us. Because here's the thing, if you
uninterrupted conversations,
right? If you, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the clip from Saturday Night Live when Will Ferrell was on it, and it was more cowbell with Christopher Walken, and like he's I think saying Will Ferrell's just ding ding, hitting the cowbell. Anyways, the other day I saw one that said parents when they're trying to have a conversation, and then the kid is Will Ferrell, just ding, ding,
That's true.
It's just true. It's true. So anyways, seasons of life affect frequency. Right. Number 4, intentionally create opportunity. Intentionally create opportunity. Okay, try a no pressure night where you sit where you set the mood without expectations. No pressure. You just set the mood, right? We're just going to do that. This is going to help reduce performance anxiety and allow intimacy to happen naturally.
Yeah.
So there's sometimes that I'll just give you a massage, like no strings attached, but because it's such a good massage, other things just happen, but no pressure, you know? And then there's times where I'm giving you a massage and then nothing happens. No pressure.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, it's about connection.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say about that?
No, that's
Okay.
good.
All right. Number 5, we're going to wrap up with this one. Sexual frequency builds emotional closeness. I feel like we've hit on this so much today. If you want to be stronger emotionally with your spouse, you have to be stronger sexually.
Yeah.
So ladies, I'm just telling you, if you don't think that he is connected emotionally, put out. Husbands, maybe it's vice versa. And she's not emotionally connected. Maybe you're the one that's not having sex enough. Have the conversation.
Yeah.
Have more sex. Have more, or maybe you want more sex, but you're not emotionally connected. You have to focus on being emotionally connected to your spouse, knowing their emotions, knowing their love language, knowing what's going on in their life, what's bugging them, what are they excited about?
Yeah.
What are they dreaming about? What are their hopes and desires, right?
Yeah.
Like so many times when we have podcasts about sex, there's so much more to it than just the physical.
Absolutely.
So much more to it. We've already alluded to it. It is the physical, but it's the spiritual, it's the emotional.
Yeah.
All these things play into effect for us to have a healthy sex life. So look for ways to nurture emotional intimacy outside of the bedroom. Okay. How are you praying together? Are you reading the Bible? Are you discussing what your spouse is reading in the Bible? Like I know right now, like you're going through the Old Testament, and the other day I was making fun of you. I was like, you need to get in the New Testament because you are judgmental.
I'm in 2 Corinthians now because you told me to. So
I
now
thought
I'm
so
there.
because you mentioned something the other day. I'm like, that's not the Old Testament. And right now I'm going through Colossians and just reading it. And so like I was sharing with Eric earlier, I was like, man, seeing how Paul prayed for the church just convicted me how much more I need to pray for our church. And so I wrote down 5 or 6 things that I want to pray over our church.
Yeah.
And so it's those things that I'm able to share with you, and vice versa, you're able to share with me, where we're connecting more, that leads more to a satisfying sex life. Yeah.
I just want to end with this. It says all pastors everywhere. Is if we gave you a lot of information. We gave you so much information. There's like no way you can't not figure this out.
Right.
Right? There we have stats, we've got research, we've got practicals, we've got all the things. But the reality is if listening to this conversation makes you uncomfortable, makes you feel a certain way, there is something on the inside of you that needs to be healed. And I just want to reiterate the conversation I had before. It is terrible if anything impure happened to you sexually that was not your fault. Maybe it was your fault. Maybe you did do something. But now as a married couple, if you have children or not, it is your responsibility to take care of it. And I promise you, the future you will be so grateful that you took that thing head on and you dealt with it, because it's not just going to go away on its own. And so much depends on it. Like we are talking about, the emotional state of your marriage is directly related to the sexual part of it. And so you have to make sure that you are healed and whole all around. Sexually, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, all of it is your responsibility now. And too many times we have people that, use their past trauma as a crutch. Do not do that. Do not do that for the sake of your spouse, for the sake of your children, for the sake of you.
Yep.
Make sure that you take care of yourself.
Hey, if this is helping you with your sex life, click that subscribe button right now. And I would just offer this to everybody that's watching or listening right now, is that we have a care pastor that goes to our church. He's recently started going, and he also works at a counseling agency. And he said, hey, if you have some people that need some help, and if you guys don't have time, I'm more than willing to have a phone call, a Zoom call, and meet up with them. And so if you need help, if you need breakthrough, you don't know who to talk to, and you're looking to talk with a pastor, whether it's Pastor Krissy or myself or this other gentleman, you can email us info@themarriedlife.org. Again, that's info@themarriedlife.org, so we can help you be set up for a win for your future. You are not alone in this. This is a community of like-minded Christian married couples that we want to grow together, because we've said this and we just know it's so true. When the marriage gets stronger, the family is going to get stronger. And when the family gets stronger, the community is going to get stronger.
That's right.
So, hey, thanks for joining us today. Listen, if you want more information or if you want to go deeper with your spouse when it comes to actually connecting emotionally, I'm going to have you click this video. It's our next video that we have available for you that's going to actually take you into a deeper relationship with your spouse. We'll see you in the next video.